Welcome to the Simon Says Music podcast. In this series, we will be talking to unsigned and independent music artists and bands about their musical journey so far. In the podcast, I will be joined by my very good friend, music producer, technician, and everything else, Nathan Scott.
Pleasure to be here. Please drop a subscribe on wherever you're listening to this. It helps us out more than you can know, and enjoy.
Welcome back to the Simon Says Music Promotions podcast. Today we're joined by the legendary singer, songwriter, musician, all the way from Bristol, Dave Cardy. Welcome, Dave.
Hello, Simon.
How are we?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself, mate?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Good.
Bearing up, as it were.
That's good.
Especially with all this lockdown. So, for all the listeners out there, hopefully more than one, could you tell us all who you are and what you do?
Yes. So, as you said, my name's Dave Cardy. I'm an unsigned singer-songwriter from Bristol in the UK. Really just sort of trying to branch out with lots of different genres at the minute, really. My main instrument of choice is piano, but I like to sort of explore different genres and put my sort of, I wouldn't call it experimental, but it's sort of a wide spectrum of different music that I try to perform. So hopefully there's something for everyone, really, I suppose.
Because you've released a couple of albums and EPs recently, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, as you know. But could you tell people who are listening what the concept of each album and EP is about, really?
Yeah, so I suppose the big one was the Humankind project, and I released that during the first lockdown, and it kind of came about because of everything that's happening in the world, really, and it just made me sort of stop and think, really. Obviously, I was sort of furloughed, as was everyone else at that time, and so I had so much time to be able to plan and write, and it was the first original music I'd done for probably sort of over a year or so. I'd done a few covers, but I'd not really sat and written down much. So the Humankind project was really about everyone sort of coming together, getting through things, and being sort of back to the basics of being a human being, I suppose. There's some really sort of personal bits on there. One that we managed to get featured on BBC Radio Bristol. They
Nice.
One of the songs, which was for my grandparents, and so there's quite a lot that I'd sort of plucked from personal experiences and things over that period of time that was going on, and that's how that album came about. But that was the first main project, and the EP that you talked about, which was the Four Walls. So that was quite fun. It was just a chance for me to experiment with instrumental, really. There was no singing on those tracks. It was just a mixture of different instrumental, sort of some sort of film score-esque, and then a little bit more obscure. And I know, Simon, you'll probably know from some of the stuff on my Facebook page, but it was kind of brought about because I'd listened to Paul McCartney's album that he brought out just before Christmas, and that was all about, basically, he'd recorded it in lockdown, and he played all the instruments on the album, and it was all sort of stuff that he had worked on or wanted to release, but never really finished it. So it was just kind of taking that on as my own sort of project in a way, doing a very similar thing.
So you mentioned obviously Paul McCartney being a big influence on the instrumental tracks, and maybe does he influence you on the vocals as well?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it was very different actually listening to that album, because I've bought other, obviously, Paul McCartney things and obviously some of the Beatles records, but it was stuff that you would really like, material you wouldn't necessarily kind of associate with him, I don't think. So it was a chance for me to kind of just be, I don't know, it's one of those things where I think I put a post about it, that I think so many artists now, especially like chart artists, are sort of just striving for that sort of perfection. They need it to be a song that they won't put out unless they think it's going to get so many hits or likes or that kind of thing in this day and age. And I think it was just a chance for me to go, you know what, I wouldn't usually put this out, but we'll put it out there and see what people think of it. Luckily, it got good reception.
Excellent.
It seems to be a trend in Bristol, actually, is instrumentals. I remember doing a UK tour with my old band a few years ago, and every time we went to Bristol, there was an instrumental band playing. There's something in the water there in Bristol that, that leads to this like psychedelic creativity and the orchestra scores and things like that.
Yeah, I think Bristol's got quite a good music culture. I think it's with the arts, it's quite in touch with, and there's quite a lot of bands out and about there. But the instrumental side of things was it was good fun.
How did you find the process of writing that compared to writing your singer-songwriter previous records?
Yeah, a little bit different, I suppose, because when I do sort of the process for song, I tend to write bits and pieces down on paper first. So I've got kind of a theme that I'm going to be singing about. And so I kind of follow that and then put the chords to it on the piano and sort of slowly build up instrumental that way. This was obviously with no singing, it was sort of, there were no themes to kind of direct myself. So that's why it was a little bit of just open up and let loose on it all. I think I had there were themes that I kind of went with. So like one of them being sort of like almost like a Wild West type scenario. I suppose they were sort of film genres that I kind of picked at here or there. But some were, like I said, some were very obscure that probably didn't know what was going on in my mind at the time. But but it was there and it flowed on the piano and obviously played in the different instruments and things. But I think it was just a combination of things. But film music, I suppose, was a bit of what's the word?
Inspiration, I guess you could say.
Inspiration, that's it. That's the word I was looking for.
There you go. I can read your mind already.
You could see it, the cogs were whirring.
Yeah. So you say about like film themes and anything and everything to do with film. Was there any particular film that you would say that you would aspire to?
Well, I did the track that was espionage was very sort of Bond-esque, I suppose. And those sort of spy thriller type series. I think so many artists or musicians nowadays would love a shot at writing something for a James Bond film. I think everyone would get their hands on that.
If they're listening, we've got willing candidates here.
Yeah.
We'll charge less than Billie Eilish and Adele.
A lot less.
Yeah. I think that that was good fun. And then I know that you, Simon, you wrote a review which was really kind of you for the EP, and you mentioned about the sort of Western feel to one of them, and I think that was another big inspiration, that sort of the sort of Wild West experience kind of thing, sort of out in a desert somewhere. I think that sort of was one of them. But the main one that I went into was the espionage one, but the rest was sort of quite on the spot ideas, really.
Yeah, so go back to your songwriting and lyric writing processes and everything. Are there any inspirations or any, I was going to say, heroes, as it were, that you... I can't think of the word I'm looking for now. But
inspired. The key word's inspired this time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm trying to think of another word rather than inspired, so I keep using it.
It's that inspiration word. It just
keeps... What inspired you to be inspiring by the inspiration?
I touched on, I suppose, a few times on Facebook about Elton John, and that's more so in the last few years, really. I suppose just because I've listened to probably all of his albums, really, and also the more recent sort of things where he's released his whole sort of discography, and it's like, the huge box sets that he releases now of unreleased and sort of demo material as well. And I think also watching the Elton John biopic film that came out several years back as well, and seeing his life and the story with what came and how he became who he did, and it's quite incredible actually seeing the struggles he went through as an artist as well before he actually made it. And I think just his piano playing in general is phenomenal. Obviously, I think everyone knows that. I think it's just the stories in his music, and having seen the film as well, where you can, every time I listen now, I relate it and I know sort of what piece of his lifetime he's talking about as well. and some people that just listen to Elton John the first time wouldn't know that. But I think, yeah, he's really good at, telling stories in his music, and there's a lot of depth to what he does. And I think, yeah, I try to try to play a lot of his songs and things and covers and things, and I mention him quite a bit. But yeah, definitely as an influence, I think he's definitely inspired me. Yeah, for sure. I found the word as well. I said inspired, so that was.
There you go. You should just call this the Simon Says Inspiring podcast, man. Prepare to be inspired by the inspiration.
Yeah, there's so many bands and artists. I mean, some that I've seen live, some that I love as well. I suppose that they're not really directed at the music I would do, I suppose, or I play, but some bands. Muse is one that I think, they're incredible. I saw them at Reading Festival, and they're just insane live. I mean, they really are a spectacle, and as musicians, yeah, absolutely amazing. I know they go crazy when you see their sets and everything. That's like, it's just mind blowing, some of the stuff they do, but they were incredible to watch live. And yeah, I mean, there's just so many artists I probably could list, that I just enjoy listening to. I'm such a music person that I listen to so many different things. It doesn't really stop at one one genre. But as you can see, I'm even wearing a Scouting for Girls t-shirt today, so that tells you, some people would find that very cheesy, I know. But
well, that's interesting though, because your main instrument, as you said, was keyboard / piano, and it's very similar to Scouting for Girls. For most pop groups, which I'd call them a pop group, really, they tend to be either completely electronic or guitar based. Whereas Scouting for Girls really heavily like piano based. So do you think you were like drawn to their music because you could almost relate to it in a way, and you could feel the songwriting experience from that?
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I saw them actually live in Bristol, sort of when they first started out, when She's So Lovely was all the rage on the charts and things like that. I don't think they've really ever had a #1 song like that, sort of, so high at the charts since. But yeah, I think definitely they do have a lot of energy in their songs as well. I think that I suppose, yeah, piano driven is something I lean towards when I listen to a lot of pop music. I do quite enjoy that. So yeah, it's a good point that you raise. I think it probably is to do with that, and quite simple melodies as well, that very catchy, and quite repetitive choruses and things. I'm not trying to dig them now. It feels like I'm slating them.
No, yeah. I think we should say that as well. As a podcast, we do support pop music. There's this,
as long as it's not Wonderwall.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, yeah, that's a banned song in my opinion. Too overplayed. But yeah, I always feel like there's, especially as an independent musician, you always get you have to be folk, indie, psychedelic, this, that, the other. But actually, as you said, sometimes the simplicity of pop is a good thing, and you get some good pop artists, and sometimes if you look beyond the name, like I'll dare to say that One Direction have a good song or two, and things like that. Yeah, and I absolutely, we're not being sarcastic here about pop music. We like pop music. So how long have you been? Because you mentioned that you had the last two big projects were this year, or this pandemic era, I'm going to call it, because who knows what year is what at this point. It's just sort of all blurred into one. But had you been playing music long before that and playing live?
So playing music, yeah, for a long time, since I've been very young, because it's a bit of an odd one, really, and a lot of people probably won't know from the stuff I do now, but both my parents were music teachers, so and a lot of, like, I grew up with a lot of classical music, and I played the flute when I was younger. That was actually my first instrument, the flute. And so through school and education things, sort of grade 5, 6 on flute is where I got to, before I think then the teen years hit and the taste definitely changed from flute music.
Why the sudden change?
That's where and I think but I do really think that the classical element of that really helped me, because I take a lot of that into other music, which I think does help when you're sort of classically trained and the theory behind it. So that was very good from that point of view. So growing up, I've been playing for a long time, and then I never actually, the weird thing is I've never ever had any piano lessons. I've never been taught piano. I've just I was given a keyboard as a child and started playing around on it. I used to play on my parents' piano at their house. And it'd be one of those that initially you would shut every door in the house, wait for the parents to leave, or they'd be in the garden before you start trying to sing or do anything so they don't hear you. Um, and then it was like that nervous, I've made my first song sort of thing when you come out and they're like, oh, amazing. And from there I've loved it, being able to have, I think when I started, because I'm quite an Apple fan, sort of when I had Mac and had Logic and all those different programs, to be able to just have so many instruments available to you to play through your piano, as MIDI instruments and things like that. I just loved the creativity of it, and then ever since I've just slowly grown with it. But it's the last, like you said, the last two years I'd say now is where I've really done the majority of the work, because I've just tried to push on. And the lockdowns, if anything, the one big positive was that it was the first time I'd really had so much time out of work and things, because I work in hospitality. It's a bit crazy. It's sort of like here, there, and everywhere. And so it was a nice, refreshing change to be able to just sit, have a good think, and really try to push some projects and relaunch things again, really.
Mhm. And your parents being music teachers, did they try? So like, was it their decision you played the flute, or did they try and insist on anything? Because you mentioned you didn't have piano lessons. Was it something you naturally went towards, or were they trying to say, come on, we want you to be our prodigy?
No, they were always very, very supportive. I think it's just because my dad, he played flute and also piano, so that's why we had a piano in the house as well. And my mum also played piano, so it was just obviously seeing him. I think growing up, obviously he was, obviously going off and doing lessons and things that I kind of just picked up, and obviously hearing it from him as well. It was one of those that you look up to and think, yeah, you know what, I want to give that a shot and give that a go. So, and to be honest, for quite a few years, I still actually have my flute somewhere buried away. I did enjoy it, going through those stages of you get all the books with the CDs, and you try to, you can get to play all your favorite like film music and things on there. And I think, it was a fun phase. And like I said, learned a lot from that and doing music theory with it. That was the sort of few years where I was able to start reading music. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be able to really read music. I think I would just be one of those musicians that does sort of just play by ear or just try to pick things up. So yeah, it wasn't forced at all. It was just one of those that you looked up to. And then as my taste changed, as I said, what I listened to and what I grew up with, going through the years, my taste started to change, and I gave the piano a shot as it was there in the house, and then kind of went from there. So I've picked up, I've got like 2 guitars, and I've had a violin at one point. I like sort of having the opportunity to try different instruments, but no, they're definitely not my strongest points. You definitely don't want to hear me on the violin, that's for sure.
That's
That'd be the next podcast.
That's a whole other skill, violin. I remember trying
Just
to
get everyone who can't play an instrument or something.
I remember, I play guitar, and I remember picking up a violin, like, what the hell is this? And like, it's so different. And even tuning it, I think I snapped someone's string when I was trying to tune a violin once, because I just didn't know what I was doing, really. But and you could do little bits when presented there, but it's such a different,
It was one of those, I think the weirdest thing, I think I bought it when I was at uni. There was like, I think it's like a cash converters or something like that, where they had it quite cheap, and I was like, you know what, let's give it a go. And you're like, my goal is to at least get like happy birthday out of this. I can try and play happy birthday with this violin. And it's like, even that was horrendous. I mean, it's the sort of screaming cat scenario. Like, you just didn't want to go down that route.
Sounds just like my singing then. So going back to the flute, have you ever considered making a flute album or an EP of flute songs, as it were?
Well, I can now announce the big flute comeback. No, I'm joking. That was going to be a Simon Says Music podcast exclusive there. I think it's one of those. The flute is quite a difficult instrument to record, I think, unless you have, so much equipment. You almost need like a full home studio, which I think, it's quite difficult to record. Sometimes with minimal kit, unless you were obviously, like I said, going to a studio itself. And I think that's a big reason why you sort of, and it probably put me off when I started to first do some recordings with it, sort of tinny sound, and very, very difficult from that point of view. but it's always in the back of my mind occasionally, the sort of slipping into the film music element of things. It could be that I would probably use it sort of on a track, or if I did, more of a soundtrack piece, that I would maybe play the flute, and it'd be quite a nice sort of thing to have it that I played it on the tracks. But yeah, I don't think I would ever do a full flute album. I don't know.
It must be quite difficult to play as well, I would have thought.
Yeah. If my cousin ever watches this, so one of my cousins, we used to, when we were growing up, we made a little like flute group. Well, he didn't play flute, but he was playing like piano keyboard, and I was on the flute. Put it Flute Avenue. I mean, if they ever get unearthed, and if he sees this, he probably will post it on my Facebook to just show me up, because we had some cracking hits on that. If they ever get, if they ever get unearthed, then yeah.
We're gonna have to try and find them then.
Yeah. You'll make that your mission, I'm sure.
Yeah, quickly write it down before I forget.
Yeah.
So with piano as your main instrument, when you've played live, are you taking a keyboard to the venue?
So live music, really, it's a bit of an odd one for me, because I've not done that much live music.
Okay.
It's something that I really want to branch into, to do. I've done quite a lot of, I mean, when I was younger, I've played in concerts and done bits and pieces, but that was more sort of through like educational reasons, or or opportunities that way.
Yeah, and quite often those crowds are silent and sober, which is very different to normal live music venues.
It's the parents that will clap everything.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. But I think because the last year or so has given me so much confidence within the music things, because I've just found myself a little bit more. Because, like I said, it was probably a year and a half where I just didn't really. It's that inspiration word again. I just felt like I was not, whether it was just I didn't have enough time or not, but I was struggling to sort of think of what route to go down with the music side of things. Do I stick to one genre? Because, like I said, I like to span various different genres, so it was kind of tricky thinking of like what I really wanted to do from it. But this last year, like I said, which I've been able to come to the scene a bit more with the page and things that I've done, that hopefully I can push on, and knowing a few other artists that I've been able to connect with. It's the great thing of social media and things, that I've been able to connect with so many other unsigned musicians and artists, that I hope that I'll be able to maybe jump in with one of those guys. It'd be great to have a starting platform, to be with someone who's maybe performed live before, to come on, and whether it be singing with them, or playing piano keyboard for them, and then go from there. But there's so many venues around in Bristol and the local
There
area.
are, yeah.
I hope, obviously, when things ease.
Shout out to Mr. Wolf's in Bristol. They do amazing noodles. If you ever play Mr. Wolf's in Bristol, they give you noodles. Well, that was run by Songsmith, and he's just moved to Spain, so I don't know what's happening there.
Oh.
Mr. Wolf. I've been to Mr. Wolf's, actually. It's quite a small little venue, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a back room that you go to. There's actually bigger than the sort of bar itself. The last time I played, there was a couple of years ago now. But you play, you get some noodles, which is amazing. I'll take that all day, every day.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna have to go there now and sing badly, then I can get some free food.
Yeah, but I think you touched on a good point. Actually, a lot of live music's about community, and I think that's something that the coronavirus has sort of impacted more than anything. It's not just not being able to play live. It's you're not seeing those people all the time. You're not being inspired by the people listening and making, well, not just friends, connections, network, whatever words you want to call it. It's really valuable live, particularly if you haven't done it much before. Guarantee you'll go somewhere and someone has, and if they're not some arrogant bastard, most people are nice, and you get to as you network and know people, and I think that's a great encouragement and confidence booster for playing live.
I think it's an amazing, you sort of see two big sides of emotions with musicians, I think, during this lockdown, because, like I said, for me, it's been an eye-opener for me to be able to connect with, like you said, connect with so many people. I've been able to, it's almost, because before, like I said, I didn't sort of feel that if I took what I was doing to a stage, I wouldn't really know what I was doing. Would it just be me and a piano doing songs? Would it be me trying to come off doing all these different genres in one concert? So I think those kind of gigs, I just didn't know how it worked. Would I need a band with me? All these kind of things. I had so many questions, But being able to do, like, I've done some fundraisers, obviously during the lockdowns, I've been able to do some live streams and that kind of thing. So seeing the reaction from that's been great. And so for me, it's actually sort of encouraged me more to do these kind of things, and I've loved doing this online sort of presence a bit more. But then I know that there's musicians that I speak to and connect with a lot, who are really struggling because obviously it's all they've known, and obviously those guys that want to get back gigging again, and it shows the live scene really does need to come back ASAP for
Yeah,
so many musicians.
it's interesting what you say, because as you said, you're almost fresh on the scene, and that playing online, you've really enjoyed that. Whereas I think you're right, a lot of old timers as such are finding it quite jagged and different because their comfort zone's been taken away. Music is certainly very therapeutic, and playing it live is a good thing. I think we had someone earlier on a different podcast saying any musician who doesn't say they're doing it for attention is a liar, and some people have struggled with trying to convert that to online. But it's interesting is that they're not playing live too much. You found it really enjoying, and you're almost finding your feet online, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. And from an encouragement point of view, sort of confidence as well, I think that it would enable me to want to try to go out and, like I said, try to start gigging and maybe appear with someone else as well. And now that I've got a bit more of an idea, a bit more of an identity, I suppose, really good to push on, and hopefully, like I said, all things being well, whether it be the end of this year that things are a bit more resolved, or maybe next year that I'm able to put something together, maybe get a few musicians that I can play with as well. Be great fun. But definitely the live scene is on the cards that I'd love to do in the future. But yeah.
I mean, good luck getting keyboards. Are a pain in the ass to travel around with. I remember once my friend's car was too small, so we had to get my other friend who had a convertible, and I sat with the piano on my lap high up out of this convertible whilst it was raining so that we could get my piano to this gig. And that was a hilarious day. So I'd say prepare a car, that prepare it out before, because that could be a right nightmare. But they're beautiful instruments when you get there. It's one of those things. But be prepared to lose a lot of space in the car.
Yeah. At the minute, I'm just trying to think now of, like, with what cars at the minute with two kids and the baby seats. Is all I'm thinking of. Where's that going to go?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but that's also, it could be the good thing with some music connections is, would you have a keyboard? Would you mind? And it's
yeah.
And
is there a piano set up at the venue? Is it?
Yeah. I feel like people are less precious over pianos and keyboards. Actually, you ask someone to borrow even a pick, and that it's like you asked them to take their child and things like that. Whereas keyboards, it seems to be more of a sharing community. I found, because everyone knows how much of a pain they are to carry around.
So you say that you've got, well, I've read that you've got some new products coming up. So could you just tell everybody and our listeners what you've got planned?
Yeah, so there are a few new projects underway. One that is still in development, one that's in the works is Omaha, which is going to be, again, it's going down the instrumental route for this one, which is centered around a World War II audio series. So it's kind of quite a big task, because it's one of those things with anything historical, you don't want to cause any, do you know what I mean? You guys are nodding already, so you kind of get what I'm getting at. You with historical events, you want to kind of do the best thing you can, and that's why it's taking a little bit longer. I think there will be some more details about it by the end of this month, but it's kind of going to be quite an interesting series over 8 parts, and they'll be released as the year goes on. But I can't give too many details away about that. It's kind of just one of those that is going to be quite different for me again. But hopefully it will draw in quite a lot of attention for those that maybe haven't heard as much of that instrumental side of me. Be different.
Is that something you're looking into playing live as well, possibly, as the instrumental stuff?
Hopefully, I suppose, if I can. There's certain things with the instrumental stuff that I do really love. It's just the logistics of it, and just whether because a lot of it that I would do is quite built up. I play a lot of different things in and sort of create, loads of different tracks and stuff, put them on top of each other, all that kind of thing, as a lot of musicians do from home, I suppose. That I think it would just be, how do I piece that all together to put into, say the Omaha thing went really well. If I could produce that live as a spectacle thing, you could have, I don't know, you could have like a screen with, video behind you as well as, and do things like that. So there's definitely avenues to go with it, for sure. I think it would just need a bit of planning and, like I said, logistics of putting it together. It'd be good fun for sure to try it.
So the main question is, where can people find all your music and find you on social media?
So my Facebook page is where most of it is at the minute, which is facebook.com/Dave Cardy Music. And then hopefully sooner or later I will go down the avenue of Twitter and Instagram and things like that as well, which would be good. But I also have a Bandcamp page as well, which is quite good because they work directly with the artists. It's quite a good site for a lot of unsigned musicians. All of the links again for my Bandcamp are via the Facebook page that you can find. And hopefully loads of people will be going via that for the festival project that I've announced as well, which is coming in a week's time.
Excellent.
Or do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh yeah.
I feel I should, as I've just sort of put it out there.
Yeah, we're dangling. We're ready. We want to buy.
Hey, plays the flute.
Yeah, it's that flute festival. I'm really, really excited about this one. To be fair, it's so it's basically Cardy and Friends Festival, and I'd seen a few people had done this sort of thing, or companies had done this, where obviously people can't get out and about. Loads of people have missed festivals, so it's kind of just bringing the festival vibe to the internet, and it's going to be a virtual festival on the 7th, 8th, and 9th of May. So yeah, what are we, 2 weeks away? So I've managed to contact quite a few different, again, a variety of artists and genres, all unsigned musicians are going to get together, and there's going to be loads of performances over the 3 days. Really cool program of music, right from, there'll be some performances from myself, some sort of acoustic folk. We've got amazing singer from Blackpool, Enya. She's going to be sort of like my headliner, so to speak, on the Friday night. She's really really good to look out for. And also we've got right the other end of the scale, Dystopian Sun, who are a heavy metal rock band, so they're going to be completely different. A few other artists who, if you go on my Facebook page, people like Richard Lennox, he's a fantastic piano player, really, really good pianist, who's put together a really special like medley of music from movies and musicals and things. That's going to be really cool to watch. And also Sean Clark, who Simon, I think you know as well.
Yes.
He's got some really cool acoustic performances lined up as well. So yeah, it's going to be really fun. Lots and lots of music to listen to, and people can dive into it. There'll be other little additional things of like live Q&As and little things where you can chat to me and hopefully some of the other artists. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun few days of music.
Sounds
And
absolutely amazing.
the post so far, actually, so we put out like a poster sort of thing about it with some of the acts. They're not all named yet, actually, not all announced. I'm going to put some more stuff up tonight. But I think it's reached almost 3,000 people from all the shares and things that it's done.
Right.
So yeah, amazing. So
That's
really hope
fantastic.
it'll be a good event, and definitely looking forward to it and supporting the other guys as well. So yeah, it'll be good fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Dave. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me, guys.
You're more than welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.